Welcome to episode 26 in this chess puzzle adventure series starring Bobby Fischerman, Average Joe, and Peter Potzer. Previously, Peter Potzer had taken the magical berries and increased his rating by a factor of 5. But today we're going to be focusing on what Bobby Fischerman was doing back at the end of the road. As the caterpillar ran off with his golden ticket, he decided he was going to see if he could cash in on his magical key, but he wanted to let his friends know where he was going. So he saw a messenger raven sitting close by. Now, the messenger ravens were all over the island, and they would deliver a message anywhere on the island if you solved their chess puzzle. So Bobby flagged down the raven and said, I'd like to send a message to my friends at Potzer Prison. The raven said, okay, but first you have to solve this puzzle. And with that, he presented Bobby with the following position. So here's the position he presented to Bobby. It's white to play and win. White's pawns are going forward in this direction. Before I say anything else, if you would like to pause, how do you think white can win this position? Well, if you had a chance to look at that, the winning move for white is the move king to d7. And the first part about this is that we are trapping the black king. So notice how the black king cannot escape, and it kind of limits black's options. If you look carefully, this pawn is pinned, so it can't move. The king now can't move here because we've taken that square away. You can't move here because of the pawn. So black really only has three options. You move your king to the corner, you capture this pawn with your queen, or you play queen to a6. Now, the king moving to the corner is not a good option. If you would like to pause and figure out why, go ahead and do that. Well, if you had a chance to do that, the reason this is a bad move is because we'll capture the pawn here. When black recaptures with check, we simply play c7. We are threatening to get a queen. Black can capture here, but now we simply take, pinning the queen here, and when black captures us, we get the queen and we force a queen trade. And after the queen trade happens, our king is perfectly placed, boxing out the black king, and our pawn simply will push and we will win. So that's why, going back to this position, the move king to a8 does not work. The other move that's bad for black is queen takes a5. Well, I'll go ahead and show you. The first move obviously is taking the queen, but then after black captures, how do we win from here? Well, if you had a chance to do that, it's very simple. You just push the pawn all the way up the board. And yes, black's going to get a queen first, but we actually get our queen with check. And so black gets the queen, we get the queen with check. It also forces the king out of the way, and we follow up by taking the pawn. We have enough extra pawns that this is a winning position for white. All right. So as you can see, that's also not a good option for black. So king to a8 doesn't work. Queen takes a5 doesn't work. However, queen to a6 is a much better move, and black has multiple threats with this move. They're threatening check here. They're threatening our rook. They're threatening this pawn. If you would like to pause, what's the winning move for white? Well, if you had a chance to do that, the only winning move is actually sacrificing the rook on b6. Now, if you thought that maybe you could do something like capturing a pawn, that doesn't work because the queen is going to come back to c8 with check. You're going to have to move over, and now black can actually safely take this. And yeah, you can have a couple of captures, but it turns out that none of them really work, and the queen is positioned nicely to stop these pawns, and black is probably going to win. Maybe the game would be a draw. All right, so rook takes b6. Now, why are we giving up our rook? Well, of course, black doesn't want to lose the queen by capturing or by moving the king, so they have to take us. And now if you would like to pause, what's the follow-up move? Why did we give up our rook for a pawn? Well, if you had a chance to look at that, the move is c7 check. And now you can sort of see the idea. We wanted to clear the way for this pawn to try to become a queen. However, it's not quite that simple. Black plays the move king to a7. If they would have played king to a8, if you would like to pause, how do we win here? If you had a chance to look at that, it's the move c6. By playing c6, we're essentially threatening to get the queen next move, and black doesn't really have any good options. Notice how there's no checks because the pawn over here is stopping this. Now, if you're wondering, why don't we just get the queen right away? Here's what would happen. Black's going to capture, and then they take on c5. And now black's pawn is actually going to be the one that queens with the check, and we're going to lose. Okay, so that's why before we push it, we have to play c6 to get out of the danger there. And now next move, we're going to get a queen, and black, like I said, can't really do anything. Okay, so the better move for black, instead of king to a8, is king to a7. Now, if you would like to pause, what's the winning move for white? If you had a chance to look at that, the move is a takes b6 check. And this is kind of weird because we're leaving our pawns doubled. A lot of times in chess, it makes more sense to capture like this, right? It keeps your pawns looking better, a nice pawn chain. But in this case, it doesn't work because after king to a8, the only thing that we have to do is get a queen, but then this is a stalemate. Look at that. The king has nowhere to move to. Our king and our pawn. All right. So how does capturing with the a pawn actually help us? Again, the king goes back. And if you would like to pause, what's the winning move? If you had a chance to look at that, it's the move b7 check, which looks ridiculous. Like you're giving up your pawn. Now you're only going to have some isolated doubled pawns. Black has two options to take it. Why are we doing that? Well, the first point is the king can't take because it blocks off the queen from defending here. We simply get a queen, and after the king moves, we take it, and this is a very easy win. We push our pawn and get another queen. But if the queen takes, what do you think we should play here? If you had a chance to look at that, hopefully you didn't say push this pawn and get a queen, because that's an illegal move. You can't do that because the pawn is pinned. So that's kind of the problem. But what we can do is play c6 and attack the queen. And here's the really amazing moment in this study. Black doesn't want to remove this pin because if they do, we're going to get the queen. So they play the move queen to a7, keeping the pin. And now if you would like to pause, what's the only winning move for white? If you had a chance to look at that, it's the crazy move e3. This pawn over here becomes the hero and takes away the only good check that black was threatening. And if you don't do that, black's going to be able to figure out something to do. So for example, if you played king to e1, hoping to get a queen like this, well, now you've let black's queen into the game. Queen to d4 check, and now you're going to probably lose this game. If you go in front of these pawns, that's not good. You get checkmated. Let's see there. Yeah, there's actually a checkmate in 3 here. It's queen to d6. You have to push your pawn, and then queen to e7, and then queen here is checkmate. And if you move away, it's also not looking good because the queen has lots of options to push you in check and start taking your pawns. So only move e3. This pawn is a hero. There's no good checks for black, and it actually puts black in Zugzwang, which is where they don't want to move. Like if black could just pass right now, they would be fine, but they can't. They have to actually move the queen somewhere that no longer pins the pawn, which gives us the option to get the queen and ultimately win the game. After this, you can just force a queen trade, and then, you know, you can push this, whatever you want to do, you win the game. Pretty nice position with a very interesting move to finish off the game, pawn to e3. So congratulations if you found that. Now, of course, Bobby Fischerman solved that with relative ease, and the messenger said, very good. What message would you like to send your friends? Bobby said, tell my friends that I'm headed into the Whispering Woods to see what I can do with my magical key, and I'll come meet them at the prison as soon as I figure that out. The Raven said, okay, and he flew off in the direction of Potzer Prison. That's where we'll pick up our story next time. As always, thanks for watching, stay sharp, play smart, and take care.